Everyone wants to live their best life, but are we living the perfect life? That is the question. There is a perfected life that we should strive for, as outlined in the Gospel of the Holy 12. The Gospel of the Holy 12 is a book that was hidden for 2,000 years in Tibet. Attempts to introduce this information to the world was allegedly suppressed by the Vatican. There could be a number of reasons why this information was withheld from the masses. Perhaps it goes against an agenda, or maybe the information counteracts certain objectives for a social outcome. Regardless of the case, we have to give credit to the work of scholars such as Swedenborg, who translated the text from its original Aramaic, and Gideon Usili, who edited the text. The Gospel of the Holy 12 was suppressed for obvious reasons because it would have promoted a dramatic effect on society. The Gospel of the 12 provides a paradigm shift or a reframing of sorts because it adjusts man's relationship to God and introduces new standards for living as demonstrated by Jesus. The title of a Christian is applied to one who is a follower of Christ. But if one falls short or deviates from the standard, then who gets to adjust the margins so that they can still retain the title without satisfying the requirements? The religious authorities have the executive power to change the rules however they see fit to suit their own objectives. How can you call yourself a follower of Jesus when you are not following his lifestyle in totality? What if there were critical aspects of Jesus' life that were intentionally hid from you so that you do not manifest your highest spiritual potential? What if this was willfully done to keep you from ever becoming the person God intended you to be? And even worse, what if this was deliberately done so that you become the thing that God hates the most, a hypocrite, one who says they are a Christian but does not live up to the standards because their lifestyle is not in accordance to that which Christ lived? In Islam, the Prophet Muhammad is seen as an exemplary model for how one should live. Muslims aspire to live up to the standard of conduct that was demonstrated by their prophet. So how is it that Christians are exempt from living up to the standards set forth by someone whom they consider to be more than a prophet, more than a man, but God himself? Why? Because you believe you are under dispensation of grace, which means you are excused in certain matters because they are deemed less important? Someone make it make sense. So, if Jesus did not eat meat nor consume alcohol, then what's your excuse for falling short of grace? Remember, God only allowed meat consumption due to the hardening of man's heart, which means God allowed it for the sake of man's carnal appetite. But prior to that, God declared in Genesis that the fruit shall be as meat for you. So clearly, it was never God's intention for us to eat animal flesh. So if Jesus is God in flesh, then it's quite possible he might have not had the craving to eat meat or animal flesh, or even have sex for that matter. So God probably would not be desirous of carnality in any form when he was in the person of Jesus on the earth. Also, in the Gospel of 12, in the Lord's Prayer, it acknowledges God as the Father and Mother, both as Abba and Amma, above and within. You see, when you remove the feminine principle from the Godhead, it creates a male-dominated social construct. Not only does this impact society negatively, it strips women of their divinity. And when this happens, it leaves room for objectification. So without the feminine principle, it teaches that only men can be godlike or divine, which creates another problem. Because if man is God, then woman must become the devil. So we basically demonize the woman. We turn them into the opposing force to good. So God is good and a man, and woman is Eve or evil, hence the devil. So Eve is the electron volts taken from atoms, and Eve is the evil that was taken from Adam. And L is the 90-degree angle or right degree angel, Lucifer, which is the planet Venus, which is the feminine principle again. So this is why Eve is responsible for the fall of creation. So it puts the blame on women. And this is unhealthy because society becomes misogynistic, and it creates a context for resentment towards females. So we have to be careful of the doctrines we create and the repercussions they have, because these doctrines form the basis for the mentality that people will have and that future generations will adopt. So it's important to go back to these ancient books or hidden wisdoms like the Gospel of the Holy 12, because these books have solutions for much of the current problems and challenges we face today as a society. Jesus said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." So we need to pursue knowledge outside of the traditional books that we have been accustomed to or that have been provided to us. I believe that this is what Jesus did for years. Years of Jesus's life are unaccounted for. And what do you think he was doing during that time? All the time of Jesus's life that are undocumented, he wasn't sitting under a tree meditating for all those years. What do you think he was doing? He was studying. He was traveling. And he was developing himself. And this is what we need to do too. This is what we should do as well. Study to show thyself approved.